Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play this video and talk about things that are going on. I better explain what's going on and talk about things that I think that are being done right and are done wrong. Here we go.
I'm Assistant Chief Kevin Deese of the Houston Police Department. This critical incident briefing is intended to provide you with information about an officer-involved shooting that occurred in Houston on November 17th, 2022. You're about to see video footage that is related to this incident. HPD conducts thorough investigations into officer-involved shootings. These typically require investigators to interview multiple witnesses, view numerous hours of video footage, and analyze a significant amount of forensic evidence. It is important to note that we're in the very early stages of the investigation, and we continue to review additional evidence as it is collected and analyzed. The videos you're about to see can be graphic and may be difficult to watch. These videos may also contain strong language. Viewer discretion is advised. At approximately 12:57 a.m., Houston police officers attempted to stop a vehicle driven by Anthony J. Garcia. Mr. Garcia refused to stop. A vehicle pursuit ensued that continued to the 4500 block of Bengal Road.
Okay, so why did the police try to stop this guy? Well, he was driving like a fucking idiot. He was running red lights, driving erratically, and to boot, here's a great part. This guy's out on parole. He's wearing an ankle monitor. Dude's out on parole, and he's out running stoplights and speeding and driving erratically. And just now happened to come across these officers to notice that. Makes you wonder what else this dude was doing. They don't explain in the video what was in the bag, but during this pursuit, he throws a bag out the vehicle. I mean, people just don't randomly throw shit out of their car during a pursuit. There was something in that bag. And this guy's got a gun. He's a felon in possession of a gun. So, man, I swear, like, I'm starting to think that the judges and all these other officials who have a hand in letting prisoners out, I'm just starting to think that they fucking smoke crack now. Like, that's, I don't know. That, like, when you try to sit down and think about, like, why do people like this get paroled? Sometimes it literally makes no sense. No sense whatsoever. And it's easy to come to this conclusion that these motherfuckers are smoking crack. But sadly, this is a recurring theme within the criminal justice system. People being paroled who do not need to be paroled. So, this guy's on parole. He's got an ankle monitor on. He's running lights, speeding, driving erratically. And he just now happened to come across these two officers. Police are largely outnumbered by the populace that they watch. So there's no telling what this dude has done day in, day out, and never came across a cop to put him in check. No telling what was in the bag. He's probably out. I mean, honestly, here's my guess. He's out selling dope. He's back in the game, trapping, whatever. He's out doing the shit. It's probably not his first time with the criminal justice system. He's probably had more than one arrest before in his background. But yet, shit like this keeps going on and on and on and on and on and on.
Where Mr. Garcia's vehicle struck an object, spun around, and came to a stop facing the patrol vehicle. Mr. Garcia began shooting at officers from inside the vehicle. Officers returned fire. After an exchange of gunfire, officers approached the vehicle and gave Mr. Garcia verbal commands to raise his hands. Officers took Mr. Garcia into custody without further incident and rendered first aid until an ambulance arrived. Mr. Garcia was transported to the hospital in stable condition. The officers were not injured.
Emergency traffic, we have one refusing to stop. Going to be one outbound 290, license plate. Robert T. Road, 533, Roman Service Road, 290, remaining 43rd, 43rd, 43rd. Try to back.
So you say he's thrown out a bag. Like I said, people just don't throw random shit out of their car during pursuits. Bags and stuff, when they get thrown out the car, that is done with a reason, to get rid of evidence. That bag has something in it. The police have not indicated in anything that I've seen, which I have not done a very exhaustive search on it or anything like that, but from just a quick search that I've done, it doesn't indicate that the police have said what was in that bag or that they even recovered it. But we all know there's something in that bag that he's not supposed to have. And my bet is it's probably drugs. It could be stolen stuff. He could have, committed a burglary or even a robbery or something, and he's getting rid of that evidence. But whatever it is, it's something he's not supposed to have. Just real quick, so I kind of like how they have this setup of two different GPS monitors right here. That way the driver can quickly reference his screen and see exactly where he's at, where he needs to go, etc. And then the passenger has his own as well. That way he's not having to, break his neck, look all the way over here and trying to see what the hell his says. The passenger can quickly glance at his, update dispatch where they're at, etc. Now, these vehicles, I don't know if these are take-home vehicles. It being Houston, it being such a large agency, I'd say that there's probably a pretty good chance that they don't have take-home cars, at least not for like regular patrol people. So it's possible that this vehicle gets shared by other people. And I think that's probably what's going on, because you see a bunch of suction mount marks on the windshield on his side over here. When it gets to the passenger's video, we'll see that here in a little bit. You'll also see the same thing. You'll see a bunch of these little rings on the inside of the windshield where I guess other people have been putting their GPS devices as well. GPS is pretty damn helpful, especially when it comes to such large areas, like large metropolitan areas, all these different streets. If you weren't raised there, you weren't born there, you're not going to instinctively know all those roads. And because of construction and growth, there's new stuff being made that you may not even know what road that is or that it even exists. So GPS can be very, very helpful, a true lifesaver in a sense. There are some programs that will run on the laptops so that you can have mapping built into that laptop as you go. But sometimes just a standalone GPS device like that can be pretty damn reliable and like I said, a game-changing lifesaver.
Clear the bag, 43rd and 290. Blue bag. Well, a blue or black bag, 290. 43rd. 43rd. He threw it at 43rd. Yep. Put it at 43rd. Alright, we're going to be headed westbound. Westbound vehicle. Direction southbound vehicle coming
Ready for cover! Ready! All set! All set! Steady ahead!
Help me. Help me. Keep cover. Keep cover. Shots fired. Hands up. Hands up. Hold the car. Hold the car.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Yep.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Take that off.
I can't breathe.
We got time. Watch your hands. Yep.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
You got it?
I can't breathe.
Officers,
I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Officers are fine. Send HOD to the suspect first.
I can't breathe.
Okay. Hey. Well, you.
That's clear. He's got one into the front.
All right, so I'll back this up and go back into the fight stuff. All right, so you could see, look towards the suspect's windshield area, and you will see glass dust coming out from where he starts shooting before this officer is ever able to get out of the car. Boom, right there. So this officer reacts to contact pretty quick. Like he's out the car, and then boom, he's got gun on target, putting rounds downrange. Now, for some reason, his partner, watch the sidewalk back here. Yeah. See that again. Yeah, so his partner dismounts from the vehicle and then runs behind the truck. Why did they do that? I have no idea. There's no good explanation for why they did that. That's not something they should be doing. Essentially, what this person has done is they have ran behind a target. It would be like being at the shooting range and you run downrange, run behind the targets that people are shooting at just to get to the other side of the shooting lane. That makes no fucking sense. Like, no. You do not want to go downrange and go behind the target. That's how you can get shot. I don't know. I just can't think of anything that would be logical that would be going through this guy's head about, hey, I should run behind this car that my partner has just been shooting at and could still be shooting at. I just don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't think that at this point, when it comes to the brain, I really do not believe that forebrain had much of any control during that part whatsoever right there. I think midbrain was more in charge at that point. I mean, that just defies logic. You want to get off the X. You don't want to go fucking get on it. Right? The X is where you do not want to be. And this guy just ran right up on that motherfucker. So, yeah. I mean, I can't even begin to explain, what could be going through his head. I just don't think anything was going through his head at that point. So this officer here with the gun, he does not appear to fire the slide lock. We don't see it locked back. I think that he has recognized that he's fired a lot of rounds and he should probably do a reload. And so he goes ahead and initiates a reload when he wants to do a reload. And ideally, that's when you should be doing reloads. You should be doing reloads on your terms, when you want to do them. Sometimes life happens, and you go to slide lock, and you are forced into having to do a reload right then and there. Not the greatest thing, right? Like, it's not on your terms. You can work through it, but it's not on your terms, and that's what makes it bad. So he has decided, it appears to me, based off the fact his slide hasn't locked back, that he is choosing to do this reload on his own. Now, he could have been gripping the gun in such a way that the slide did not lock back. That does happen sometimes. So he could have actually fired the slide lock, and then the slide just never had a chance to lock on its own, and he started pulling a dead trigger at that point. And then he had to force himself into a reload. That's certainly plausible as well. But at any rate, he performs a reload there, and then he assesses, and there's no need for him to shoot anymore.
Ready for cover! Ready! Oh shit!
He's yelling out some verbal commands here. He's saying, ready, get cover, ready, I'm set. So this can vary from instruction to instruction, or curriculum to curriculum. Once you learn the basics of firearms handling and everything, then you start moving into tactics, moving and stuff like that. And this is where this type of training comes into play. So you don't ever want to yell, my gun's empty, during the middle of a gunfight, because the bad guy could hear that and then take advantage of that. Traditionally, the thing that could be said is just yell out cover. And that's a one-word challenge, or a one-word notification that can be responded to with just the same word as an answer. You can yell, cover, and the person could respond with either saying cover or covering to let you know, hey, I've received your request, I've received your notification, I'm doing what you need. And then once you do your thing, whatever it is you need to do, whether you need to move from point A to point B, you need to reload the gun, whatever, once you're there, you can yell, I'm set. Or ready, whatever. Like I said, it changes from place to place as far as curriculum and instructors go. And that's what he's doing right here. So he is communicating that he needs lethal cover on the target because he's unable to maintain that lethal cover on that target for any reason. One, his gun could be empty. He may be wanting to do a reload on his own liking, or it could be something like he wants to move to cover and get somewhere where it's going to stop bullets. Whatever the reasoning is, he's communicating that, hey, I need you to provide this lethal cover for me. So this tells me that they have had some decent firearms training, right? Like they've gone through this in their training. And if not as an agency, then at least maybe he has done this on his own. But I think that this is probably an agency-directed kind of training thing, which is good. You need to get tactics involved in there. You need to be doing more than just the basic firearms handling and marksmanship stuff. If all you do is remain static on the line while you shoot at paper targets and you never move, you never go take cover behind barrels or barricades or anything like that, then you're not doing any kind of real training. So good on him or the agency for having them go through some pretty decent training, and good on him for going through it. That one tells me not just that he hasn't just been exposed to it, but he's done it multiple times. He's done this with some repetition before. Like they've probably gone through a few drills, and he has retained it, and he is utilizing it.
Shoot your hands! Shoot your hands! Shoot your hands! Hands! That's fine.
All right, so he just had to go turn the siren off on the car. The siren boxes made by these manufacturers, which off the top of my head, the only ones I know of are Federal, Wayland, Sound Off maybe, and there's some other small. I can't remember the names of them, but the two big ones I know of, Federal and Wayland, they make their siren boxes to do more than just make a siren noise. There's extra, circuitry and wiring within these boxes that you can wire these things up to the existing wiring in the vehicle to make that thing do extra stuff. So, for example, you can take the siren box and wire it in to the horn of your vehicle, and when you press the horn on your vehicle, that changes the siren tone. You can be driving with the siren on whale, press your horn like you would be blowing your horn normally, and that changes it over to yelp, which is pretty cool because you can keep both hands on the wheel, use your thumb, hit the horn, and boom, you change the siren tone versus having to take your hand off the wheel and reach down and mess with the knob. That's pretty cool. There's also the ability to wire it in to your gear selector so that when you throw that vehicle into park, it shuts the siren off completely. Then you don't have to reach down and turn the knob off because just the mere act of throwing the car into park, boom, shuts it completely off, which is pretty cool. But there's some places that just don't activate, so to speak, those extra features because it requires extra work. It requires you to have to splice in to some of the existing wiring within the vehicle. Just to set up a siren, all you need to do is, one, put the speaker in and then put the box in. And then run power and negative to the box. And then have your speaker wires going in between the speaker and the box. That's it. That's the basic setup. And that's what a lot of places do. Why is it that a lot of places just do that only? There's a multitude of different reasons, I think. Number one, it's just the easiest thing to do. Like, straight up, it's like laziness is is going to be humans' default. That is the path of least resistance. People will always do the least amount as possible and get away with it. And so I think that in a lot of places, people are just wiring these things up. All right, the siren works, is cool. We ain't going to mess with this other shit because it takes too much time. Other people may not fully know about it. They may not be knowledgeable enough to start splicing into those other wires or access those other things. And so they just don't mess with it. And this reason, I think, is kind of a weak reason, but it's a possibility. Some places could just say, hey, if we start splicing into these different wires, that could create liability or whatever. We just don't want to mess with it. Again, like I said, I think that's kind of a weak one because a cop car is pretty much almost 100% modified anyway. It's not a normal fucking car, right? But there could be some place that says, hey, we don't want you splicing in to these wires that's in the steering wheel column. There's just, too much to potentially mess up there, and we don't want that liability. But I think the first two reasons are the most likely ones. One, people are just too fucking lazy to do it, and two, people are just not knowledgeable enough to do those extra things. If you're on an agency that has swap cars, hot swap cars where, morning shift drives the car and then evening shift gets there and they take that car over and then boom, when they're done, night shift takes that car. The car is continuously running all the time. It could be difficult for you to modify that vehicle on your own because chances are you may not even get it back the next day. Someone else may have it. And you just wouldn't have the time to do it anyway. There's not going to be a whole lot of downtime for it. That's something that you would have to try and get your motor pool to try and do if they're going to be messing with it anyway. If you've got a take-home car, you have all the opportunity in the world to activate those extra features if they're not already done. You can do it yourself, even if you don't know how. There's YouTube videos to watch to figure out how to wire these things up. You may have some friends who can be pretty good at it. If you're, sheriff agency or something like that, undoubtedly you're going to be, coming into contact with lots of volunteer firefighters. I can guarantee you, out of, however many volunteer fire departments you have in your area, someone is going to know how to wire stuff up, right? Like they do that on their own anyway. And you can get this done. Even if you're not, supposed to be making modifications. Who the fuck's going to know? Is your chief of police, is your sheriff going to crawl his ass up in your car, be down on their knees, looking at wiring and stuff like that? Fuck no. They're not going to crawl up under your fucking car and see what you got going on with it. They're not going to bend all the way down in the floorboard and look up into the steering column area and see if you've added any extra shit to your car or anything like that. They are not going to do that. They're fucking lazy, all right? Even when you take the car in for regular service shit, like, they're not going to fucking know. They're not going to know. The only time anybody would ever know that you did this is when the vehicle goes to be decommissioned. And at that point, who gives a shit? The car's being decommissioned. And that is if they take the stuff out of the car. There's some agencies that don't take anything out of the car. They just sell the car as it is. Like, literally, they will take the car, they'll take their radio out, that's it. They'll take their radio out, and they might either spray paint over their logos, or they'll remove the logos, but then they'll leave everything else in there. They'll leave the cage, the siren, the lights, the radar, they'll leave all that shit in there, and they don't give a fuck, and they'll sell it as it is. Other places may take that stuff out, and then they'll resell that stuff. So, at that point, if they're taking stuff out, whoever, is deinstalling it may be like, hey, there's these extra wires going somewhere. Well, we don't normally do that. Are they going to make a big deal out of it? Probably not. They're just going to take their fucking wire cutters, snip the wires, take the damn box out, throw it on the shelf, and either put it in a new car or keep it on the shelf and they'll put it on Gov Deals. Or sell it at, city, county auction, whatever. So I wouldn't even be worried about someone figuring out that you turned on this feature on your siren box to have the siren turn off when you throw the car in park. No one's going to find out, and no one's going to go out of their way to try and figure that out. So don't worry about it. But yeah, if you get your take-home car, you can most definitely do this, no problem whatsoever. And I would implore you to do that. That's a good thing to have turned on. And maybe, here's another thing too. Maybe your administration doesn't really fully know about this stuff. And it could just take you talking to them to convince them to have the maintenance people start making those changes and having those things turned on whenever they start to do the install process for all the stuff. Or they could start, if you order your car is from a company that does all this stuff before you ever get it, you start having them check off, hey, we want this, stuff wired in so that when the car gets thrown in park, boom, it shuts the siren off. And they can start making those requests. Whatever. Anyway, moving on.
Hands up! Hands up! Help me! Hands up! Help me! Keep cover! Keep cover! Shots fired. Hands up! Hands up! Hold the car, hold the car. I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Yep.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Take that off.
I can't breathe.
We got time. Watch your hands. Yep.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
You got it?
No, I can't breathe.
Officers,
No, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. No, I can't breathe.
Well,
Breathe.
You got it?
No, I can't breathe.
Officers,
No, I can't breathe.
all right, so he initially tried to put on a second pair of handcuffs for this guy. I've seen this quite a bit in lots of different videos. I'll usually see this as a common thing done with LAPD videos, but it also happens in other places. I don't agree with that practice at all. Handcuffs are there for a reason. Handcuffs are there to restrict a person's movements to make them a less capable and less efficient fighter. It is to restrain them. Why would you put on a second pair of handcuffs to give this person essentially more maneuverability with their hands? That makes no sense to me whatsoever, especially in a scenario like this where the motherfucker just tried to kill you. He tried to fucking murder you. Why the fuck would you want to put 2 pair of handcuffs on him and give him the ability to move his hands around a lot more easily? Fuck that. Shit like that gets on my damn nerves. This dude tried to fucking kill you. He gets 1 pair of handcuffs. I don't care he's fucking fat. Fuck him. He should have ate less. And I say that as a fat guy myself. The handcuffs are meant to restrict their movements. If his body style means that when you put that 1 pair of handcuffs on, he ain't moving for shit, that's even better. That gives you more of an advantage if he decides to start fighting. Guess what? He ain't going to be able to be a very good fighter. But you put that second pair of cuffs on, guess what? Now he has more maneuverability. Now he can do a little bit more than what he could if he only had 1 pair of cuffs on. There are people who are the reverse of this. They have such small body frames, they're ectomorphic body frames. You put 1 pair of handcuffs on them, and since they're so damn small, they can take both of their cuffed hands, move them around to the side of their body, and dig into their front pocket with ease. Like, that kind of sucks when you have someone that small who can maneuver and bend and flex like that. That's where hinged handcuffs come into play. But why make it easier for them to do that when you don't need to be doing that? Especially if they just tried to fucking kill you. Like, you want to restrict this dude's movements as much as possible. Anyway.
I can't breathe. Trigger fine. Send HFD for the suspect, please.
I can't breathe.
Okay, hey. What lost you?
That's clear. He's got 1 gunshot wound to the foot, or to the leg.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Second to get these blood boots done.
I can't breathe.
I don't see any of that. Put gloves.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
You getting gloves on? Hold on. Yep. Same. Roll him in the recovery position.
I can't breathe.
Hold him up.
I can't breathe.
Hey, check yourself, ready? Check yourself. Yep.
All right, check yourself. So, following a gunfight, and, so long as the threat is no longer a threat, things have calmed down enough to where it's safe for you to do so, you need to start checking yourself. Because there have been cases where in a gunfight, a person was shot and they never knew they were shot. Because they had so much adrenaline, so much endorphins just coursing through their body, it just didn't register with them. There have been people who've been in fights and someone pull out a knife and start stabbing them, and they had no idea that they were being stabbed. They just thought they were being punched by the other person. Because again, they had so much adrenaline and endorphins pumping through their body, they never felt that pain. So this is a good tactic to follow. Like I said, so long as the threat's no longer a threat and it's safe to do so, check yourself. If you're by yourself, you do a hasty search on you. I say hasty search only because you're doing it from your first person's perspective, and you're not able to get a good, full third-person view on you. But when you do a check on yourself, it's still thorough. It's not, a quick wham bam thank you ma'am kind of thing. You're still being as thorough as you can be, but it's just not going to be as thorough as a third person looking at you. But you're by yourself. You go ahead and take both hands, start from the head and go down. So you start with your head, you'll take both hands, you'll run them through your hair, right? Go over top of your scalp to the back of your head, to the back of your neck, sides of your neck, and to your throat. And then you come up and rub on your face. Pull your hands back, look at them, no blood, keep going. Doesn't matter what arm you start with, but start with an arm. You're only going to be able to do each arm one-handed. But basically, you're going to be pretend that you're trying to put lotion on, right? Pretend that you're trying to put lotion over your skin or put on sunscreen, whatever. You're just going to be rubbing, not rubbing in one spot vigorously, but just doing one sweeping motion, covering all your skin that you can cover with that one hand. So I would recommend starting at your armpit, reach in, rub up under the armpit, roll over to the top of the shoulder and the bicep area, rolling down, going to the elbow, the forearm, coming down. And then once you get to your wrist area, you don't even have to move your hand over your other hand and wrist area. You just check that forearm and or that bicep and elbow area on the underside that you can't really see very well. And once you get to the wrist area, you can kind of stop right there because you can see the rest of your hand. Pull your hand back, check for blood. Do the same thing with your other arm. When it comes to your chest, this is going to vary depending on how your uniform is set up. If you have an outer vest, it's going to be a whole lot easier for you to just take your hands and snake them in through the arm opening of the vest and feel around the chest area, or loosen that side flap and then check in under there. If you have a concealed vest with your uniform, you're going to have to undo your uniform shirt and undo a part of your vest to be able to reach up under there and feel around to see if you've got any blood coming out. I would not advocate removing everything unless you got a bunch of other backup there. There's a bunch of other people. If it's just you and one other person or two other people, I would hold off taking everything off. Because that scene could still rapidly change. And if it still could rapidly change, guess what? You're probably going to be a piece in that game. You don't want your protective equipment completely off of you, or your fighting equipment completely off of you, and you have to fight. So loosen it up to be able to feel, but don't take it all the way off. The only way your gear comes all the way off is, like I said, when there's a shit ton of people there, like a whole fucking platoon, the whole shift is there, and if something happens, the rest of them can go take care of that shit. You can stand by where you're at. But loosen stuff up, feel around the chest area, go down into the, to where the belt is, feel up under that belt, pull your hand back out, check, reach up under your back area, feel that area, etc. Pull hand back, check. Feel your crotch and buttocks area, your pelvic girdle area, rub up around there, pull your hands back, check for blood, keep moving, both hands to one leg, crest the leg all the way down to the ankle, pull hands back, check for blood, keep going. If any point you find blood, start digging in, finding out where that blood's coming from, and address that issue. Even after you've checked yourself and then a bunch of other people get there, someone needs to check you, even though you've already checked yourself, because it's always better to have that third-person view for an exam. And then that is, once everyone else is there, that's when you can start taking your vest and uniform top off and have a good exam to make sure that you don't have any wounds. Because like I said, there's been times people have been shot and they had no idea they'd been shot. They just had so much adrenaline and endorphin pumping through their body, it just didn't register with them. There's also times where people have been shot and not a whole lot of blood is coming out of them because of the constriction of the blood vessels during a fight. So, and this can even happen to people with amputations, people who've had arms and legs cut off violently in a wreck or an accident, explosion, something like that. the blood vessels to the extremities and everything, they constrict, because your body under fight or flight is more concerned about the core of you. It only cares about the heart and lungs and the brain. It don't give a fuck about the arms. It'll start constricting blood flow out to there, also that the core can maintain it all. So there's been times where people have had amputations from accidents, and they didn't have like blood gushing out like what you would imagine. It was kind of a light flow, so to speak. And then after things calm down, those vessels start to unconstrict. Boom! Then the floodgates open, and then all that blood starts gushing out. So and the same has happened when people who've been shot. They've been shot. There's a hole in them, but because of the constriction of the vessels, they're just not gushing blood a whole lot. And so that could also be going on. So that's why a third person doing an exam is the best. Yeah, moving on.
Hey, come check ready. Someone come check me. Make sure we're not shot.
Good.
All right.
Yep.
I'm good. I'm good.
I want to check for if he needs a chest seal or not. He's got a gunshot wound.
I don't think he needs a chest seal.
He has got a graze wound here.
He's got 1, 2.
Who fired?
We both did.
Okay, let these officers handle it. Let's get y'all in your shops.
So Houston police refers to their vehicles as shops, and I still have not figured out why they call their cars shops. So far, they're the only agency I've come across that refers to their vehicles as that. Pretty much everywhere else refers to them as cruisers, squads, black and whites, cars, your vehicle, whatever. Shop is a very unique way of referring to their vehicles. I wish I knew more about that. I kind of thought that it was kind of like a joke kind of thing, like all these cars are so shitty, they're always in the shop, we'll call them a shop. But I don't know if that's what's going on with it or not. So if you know why Houston police refers to their vehicles as shops, please comment. I would really love to know why that's so. This officer seems to be a supervisor coming up. He's telling these two guys who have been involved in it to disengage and go back to their vehicle so the others can take care of stuff. That's pretty normal with a lot of places. Once a supervisor gets there, their responsibility is to make sure the people involved are not involved anymore, and they're off to the side. These guys have been involved in an incident where they are both actors in it and they're both witnesses in it as well. And although this is a justified use of force, this is a justified. Well, the guy doesn't die, but if he did die, this would be justifiable homicide. But at the baseline of it, it's still an act of homicide. A person killing another person is in pretty much everywhere seen to be as something is not okay. Now, there are exemptions. I wouldn't say exemptions. There are justifications for this that would make it where a person is not guilty of a crime. It's a permissible thing to occur, but an investigation has to occur to come to that conclusion, to say that it was justifiable. So that's why they're being separated from the incident, because one, they've participated in this thing, and two, they're witnesses. And until an investigation is completed, they are, in a sense, suspects of a murder. All right? So pretty standard stuff, pretty normal stuff to separate officers after they've been involved in a shooting.
Let these officers handle it. Let's get y'all in your shops.
So this is from the passenger officer.
91.74. Emergency traffic. We have one refusing to stop. We're going to be going outbound 290 from 43rd. License plate. Robert Zebra Victor 5433. We're on the service road of 290 coming up to 43rd. Through 43rd coming up to Bingle.
got a bag. We got a bag, 43rd and 290.
What about a blue or black bag, 290 Bingle, outbound, if we can get a unit?
So this is the nice thing about having a passenger in a vehicle. They can take over radio communications, and the driver is able to keep both hands on the wheel and stay devoted to safely operating that vehicle. Unfortunately, this doesn't occur in the majority of the U.S. In the majority of the U.S., it is one-man cars. Only larger cities can afford to have 2 officers in one vehicle. Everywhere else, it's a one-man car. In these other places where it's traditionally just a one-man car, the only time you'll ever see 2 people to a car is when there's training going on. That means there's a rookie in the vehicle, and they're being trained on, what the agency does as far as their administrative stuff, how they like to see things being done, etc. They call it FTO. FTO is the person doing it, field training officer. So it'd be field training program is what the rookie officer would be going under. And then once that's completed, then that rookie officer will have their own car to take off on. So another thing a lot of people I don't think realize or understand is that in a lot of places here in the U.S., there's not that many cops working. There's some places, some counties, there's only like maybe 2 deputies out at night. Some places, there's only 1 deputy out at a night. Within some towns, there may be only 1 or 2 officers out at night. That's normal for the rest of the U.S. It's only, like I said, in these larger cities where higher population, higher tax base, more money, that they can afford to have 2 officers to a car. Now, they're entering this pursuit, so they were going to initially start this traffic stop off, started off as an unknown risk traffic stop. All right, they're dealing with a car that's speeding, running lights, etc. But now that he's refused to stop and they're chasing him, we all know that once this vehicle comes to a stop, this traffic stop is no longer an unknown risk stop. It is a high risk stop. And with high-risk traffic stops, you need to have long guns out. You need to have shotguns and rifles out. So, what could this passenger in this vehicle be doing? Well, it depends on how the vehicle's set up. If the rifle is in the cargo hold of this car, well, there's not much he can do. It's not like he's going to be able to crawl the fucking car while it's in pursuit, climb across the roof, get the rifle out of the back, and then climb back in, right? Like, that's impossible. So, if it's in the cargo hold, they're fucked. If it's in the cab of the vehicle, then what he could be doing and what he should be doing is getting that rifle out and prepped. So if the rifle's in the cab up there with them, he needs to be taking it out of its mount, putting the sling around his neck, and charging that charging handle, and getting that thing ready for the fight. That way, when they come to a stop, he can dismount from the vehicle and quickly aim a rifle at the suspect. Now, we know that this ends in a gunfight, so if he had a rifle out and boom, came to a stop like that, he would have been able to start delivering rifle rounds at the target right away. But like I said, it depends on how the vehicle's set up. That varies all across the nation and, from state to state, even in one county. You may have a city agency that does things one way and the county does things a different way. It really depends on where you're at. Some places it's kept in the trunk, kept in the cargo hold. Some places there's a mount that's in between the seats. Some places there's a mount that's kind of like on the ceiling. Some places there's a mount that's kind of like in the floorboard kind of design. Whatever. It's all different. But if there was a rifle in the cab of this car, then the passenger officer failed at getting it ready, in my opinion. But that's, like I said, if it was in there.
Yep. Put it at 43rd. right, we're going to be headed westbound. Westbound Bingle. Correction, southbound Bingle coming.
Again, like I said, he essentially ran down to the shooting targets, ran behind them, and then came back up to the shooting line. Like, that makes no sense to me whatsoever. We'll back this up. So you can see the suspect vehicle right there in front of him.
Southbound Bingle coming.
What he hit, I have no idea. I wish they would have, thrown that out there just for informational sakes. But he loses control and hits this tree. And he is quick to start sending rounds out his windshield here. Now this officer here, what I think he was doing is I think he had in his head that he was going to go out the door and dismount from the vehicle, and then as they started taking rounds, I think he changed his mindset and then said, "Hey, I'm a return fire." I don't have a problem with him returning fire from within the car. I'll just say that if you're going to commit to one thing, then do that. When you make a plan and you go to act on it and then you change it before you can fully execute it, and then you think of something else and then try to execute that plan, that leaves a lot of lag time in between. Now this happens very quickly. It's not like he was there for a whole minute or nothing like that, but it was still a delayed amount of time between him going to initiate himself getting out of that car to, hey, I'm a return fire, and then getting that gun out and doing that. Time is of the essence in these things. Whoever can put rounds into the target first is the one generally who's going to win, right? Would I have been okay with him fully dismounting the vehicle and going to the back of the squad car and returning fire from there? Yeah, I'd be fine with that. Am I fine with him doing this? Yeah, I'm fine with him doing this. He is sending rounds out of his windshield to the bad guy. Now, let's talk about shooting through windshields. It is not a sure bet thing. Like, you're not going to get 100% accuracy shooting through windshield. Windshield is glass, laminate glass, and when you send a round through that, that's going to deviate that round in some way. It may go up, it may go down, it may go side, to the left, to the right, whatever. It's going to deviate in some way. When your target is close up to you, that deviation is still noticeable, but it's minimal. As you increase distance, that's when you start to see it become very, very noticeable. So if you got a target at the hood of your car and you're shooting at it, you'll see that your rounds are off a little bit. And as you increase smaller increments of distance, and it doesn't take very long, you'll get to a point where your rounds aren't even hitting that target at all, because that windshield causes that much deviation. So the trick, the idea to shooting through glass is make a hole and then start sending all your other rounds through that same hole. That way, those rounds that go through that hole aren't touching anything that cause them to deviate. Now, what sucks for this guy is not only is he shooting through his windshield, but once his rounds make it through and go to the bad guy, well, to get to the bad guy, he has to go through the bad guy's windshield. So he's got two barriers he's having to contend with right here. Even though he may not have a very, very high probability of hitting his target, he at least can cause his target to take cover, to react to rounds coming in at him. His rounds hitting that person's windshield can cause that person to flinch, duck down, cause more glass dust to go into the vehicle and get in that person's eyes and him suck it in into his mouth and nose and breathe that in and then start having some breathing problems, whatever. So even though he fires a bunch of rounds and he may not even hit that guy at all, he's at least putting rounds into that space where that guy's at and is affecting that guy in some way. At this point, he should have just went to the rear of the car and came around the other side. Again, like him running in behind the target makes no sense to me whatsoever. He could have even potentially gone in between the two vehicles right here. There's a big enough space there for him to do it. But even then, I wouldn't even recommend that. My first recommendation would be go to the rear of the car, put as much of the vehicle between you and the bad guy as possible, and work from there.
Hands! Hands! Help, help, help!
Alright, so he reaches down into his vest and you see what he looks like he does some type of like pushing motion on something, and then hand comes away from him and he says out loud, shots fired, shots fired. So what I think he's doing at this moment is he is activating the emergency button on his portable radio. The orange button, it's an emergency button. It's also known as the oh shit button, dispatcher appreciation button. Once you press that button, it sends a tone out across the net, and all of the radios will hear it. And other radios will react to it. Some radios on displays, they'll start flashing a little orange or red banner or something like that, and it'll alert that, hey, there's an emergency going on. We just can't hear that tone because of the siren in the background. If it's configured to do it this way, which I think it is based off how he's acting, once you hit that emergency button, that can cause your radio to hot mic, meaning it starts transmitting like you were pressing the button to transmit, but you don't have to press the button. And that can be configured to hot mic for 10 seconds, 15 seconds, or even 30 seconds. It really depends on how the agency's dispatch wants it set up or how they configure it themselves. So you can press that button, and one, it sends a tone out. It does multiple things at once. It sends a tone out. It's like doo 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 doo. And it also will, if someone else is talking on the radio or trying to talk on the radio, it knocks them out. Like it sends this blocking tone, and it doesn't allow them to get onto the radio at that moment when that thing's being activated. And then it hot mics that radio. That way, when you start talking out loud, everybody hears what's being said, which is a really cool feature for emergency situations. Because you may not have that ability to keep your hand up on that radio and talk into it. You may just have enough time to press that button and then start shouting out loud things that are going on. You know, I got one at gunpoint. We're running down the alley from 5th Street, whatever. You can shout those things out. Keep your fighting hands full with the fighting tools. And the dispatcher's going to be able to hear what's going on. The dispatchers, if that feature is turned on, then they most likely have the ability to remote listen to your radio. So even though it will only hot mic for 10 seconds, dispatch can press a button and listen in to what's going on. They will hot mic your radio for you. Again, that depends on if that feature is turned on and set up. Some places have all the bells and whistles turned on when it comes to the radios. Other places, they don't, because either A, they just don't fucking understand it, they don't have people smart enough to operate it, or it's just something they didn't want to pay for, or they just don't want to fuck with. They just want, they just want a radio to talk on. Like, they don't want all the extra bells and whistles. It's sad when it comes to that, when you have the radio that is capable of doing all this shit, and all they want is just a fucking two-way radio. Like, I don't care about all this shit. Let's just talk to each other. Like, you have so much fucking capability, so much technology built into these things. Fucking utilize them. But anyway, that's what I think is going on. He's pressed the emergency button and he's talking out loud about what's going on.
Hands! Hands! Help, help, help.
All right. See that gun? There goes the AK style weapon. This is technically, legally, a pistol. So for those people who are watching who are not gun people, the ATF says that you can take an AK rifle or an AR rifle, and let's stick with AK for right now. You can take an AK, take the stock completely off that gun, make the barrel super, super short, and it is a pistol because you can shoot it one-handed. But if you take the stock off, but you have a certain length barrel on it, that's a no-no. The ATF a lot of times makes no sense to me. But that is what it is. You can have, like I said, in that configuration, you can have it like that, and it's deemed as a pistol. It's perfectly fine, perfectly legal. But if you have that super short barrel on there, and then you add a stock, that then makes the gun an SBR, a short-barreled rifle. And you have to have a tax stamp for that. And if you don't, then you will be prosecuted under the same law that you would be prosecuted under if you had a fucking machine gun. Because that's what governs that right there. SBR. It is an NFA item, National Firearms Act. National Firearms Act is a law, and within that, it talks about SBRs and stuff like that. And so, if that AK weapon right there had a stock on it with that very, very short barrel, possessing that alone is a felony. Can't do it unless you have a special tax stamp for it. But you can have that super short barrel and cut the stock off, and it's not an SBR. It's a pistol. I'm actually really intrigued and shocked that that's allowed to go on. And I'm not saying that from an anti-gun standpoint. Like I think NFA needs to be fucking repealed. I think we should be able to go out and buy belt-fed machine guns without a bunch of bullshit. But it like I said, it just kind of intrigues me that that's allowed to go on, because that's basically a loophole for an SBR, short-barreled rifle. These guns are very popular with the thug crowd, and it used to be that Glocks were like the most popular thing, after they came out. Everyone was rapping about having a Glock. I got my Glock 40, got my Glock 9, and they still are to some extent. But now they want to rap about Choppas or Dracos, which is this thing right there. You'll see these in rap videos a lot, probably more so than what you would see a Glock pistol. And because they have gained that popularity, that notoriety or whatever, all these little street thugs want to get a hold of them. And they're only doing it for the looks. They're not even smart enough to know the ballistics of it. I think that some of them realize that, yeah, they're getting a pretty good bang for the buck, pun intended with it. It has a larger caliber cartridge in it. It can fuck shit up better. But for the most part, they're just going after these things for the looks, because they see it in a rap video and they think it looks cool as shit, and they think they can look cool as shit too if they have it. But with these things, what they're gaining with it is the ability to defeat body armor, traditional body armor worn by police. Traditional body armor worn by police is, for a lot of places, 3A armor. You may have some places that order 3 armor or 2A armor. Whatever they got, it's all rated for pistol. And pistol is the most commonly found weapon or most common threat out there by street criminals. And it still is to some extent, but we're starting to see these AK pistols and these AR pistols gain popularity. And those are pistols with a rifle cartridge chambering. They're legally defined as a pistol, but let's be real, they're fucking rifles, right? They're fucking rifles. And rifle cartridges will punch straight through soft armor, no problem whatsoever. A rifle cartridge will go through 3A armor like a warm knife through warm butter. It'll go through the front panel and the back panel, no issues whatsoever. So, these guys are lucky that he didn't get around on them, because their vest most likely would not have stopped it. They're probably most likely wearing 3A vests. So, because these weapons are becoming more popular, being seen more in street crimes, I have 2 predictions, or 2 possible predictions, I guess you could say. One is that we will probably see the legal definitions become altered or amended to basically close that loophole. Now, like I said, I'm a gun guy. I think the NFA Act should be repealed. You should be able to go out and buy a belt-fed machine gun. I think you should be able to buy a fucking grenade launcher with fucking high explosive grenades. I really do. But let's be honest. An AK pistol, an AR pistol, is a loophole for a short-barreled rifle. Let's call it what it is. So, I think that loophole will go away. The ATF will swipe their pen unconstitutionally and be able to administratively write that out of existence and say, oh, no, these are no longer pistols. These are in these configurations in SBR. So that's a very high possibility. And if they can't do that, they'll, I could see some law easily being done to do away with that. And then the other prediction is that armor manufacturers that make vests for officers will start to produce vests that are capable of stopping rifle in a soft style configuration. Right now, the only company I know of that does that is Safe Life Defense. They have a vest called the FRAS, Flexible Rifle Armor System. The vest wears like a soft vest, like a soft concealable vest, but it stops rifle cartridges. Safariland and PACA and all those other companies, to my knowledge, they just don't make armor like that. But with these emerging threats out there, I foresee them starting to do that. And I see that as something that will start out and that will become the norm. And I will see that as basically almost being like the death of plates, so to speak. Because right now, aside from Safe Life Defense FRAS vest, the only way to stop rifle cartridges is with rifle-rated plates. And that's either going to be with steel plates, ceramic plates, or poly plates. Plates are bulky, they're thick, and if you got ceramic or steel, they're going to be heavy. Poly's the lightest, but still, it's a thick-ass plate. I mean, it's thick. It's very thick and noticeable, and it only covers a small portion of your chest. It's not a full wraparound like a concealable soft armor vest is. I see that happening, but sadly, it's just not happened yet. Unfortunately, I think what's going to happen is more officers are going to have to be injured and or killed before these larger companies who have the ability to do this start saying, well, maybe if we make this vest, maybe these agencies will buy it. Duh. It sucks that they're operating off the mindset of money, But it is what it is. I just wish they'd fucking do shit a lot quicker and get things out there that are better for our police. Alright, moving on.
Hands up! Hands up! Help me! Help me! Hands up! Help me! Help me!
Now, it's interesting that this dude was obviously driving the car, started off in the driver's seat shooting at them, and then somehow ended up in the back seat. I guess once he started receiving rounds, he said, "Oh, fuck," and then tried to crawl in this back seat floorboard area like a little bitch.
Help me! Keep cover! Keep cover! Hands up! Hands up!
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Yep, we're working.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Take that off.
I can't breathe.
We got time. Watch your hands.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Got it.
I can't breathe. 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 Officers are fine. Send HOD to the suspect, please. I can't breathe.
Okay, hey. One last here.
That's clear. He's got one to the right. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't
Give
breathe.
me a second to get these blood screws done.
I can't breathe.
Alright, so, pulling him out of the car and getting him in custody without gloves on is a very quick, emergent kind of thing. I can understand, an excuse not having gloves on while doing that. It's very rapidly occurring. Getting him in the custody needs to occur very quickly. But once the cuffs are on, you need to put gloves on. This guy's bleeding, and you have to assume that everybody has something that you do not want. All right? Bodily fluids can carry communicable diseases. AIDS, HIV, hepatitis, whatever. When it comes to bodily fluids, you want to be protected. You want gloves on. And you have to assume that they have the works, especially when it comes to dirtbag criminals like this. This guy's probably... He's obviously made a very, very bad decision in life. The fact that he is on parole right now tells me that he probably made a lot of bad decisions in life that led him up to that point. And a lot of those bad decisions could have involved using prostitutes, having unprotected sex with lots of other, dirtbag people, sharing needles with people, getting a tattoo in prison from a tattooer who's using the same needle on someone else. Whatever. You have to assume that they have something. And so if that means that it takes you some extra time to put gloves on and they're bleeding, then so be it. They brought that shit upon themselves. You need to make sure that you are protected, that you don't bring anything home that you don't want to bring home. So after they got him cuffed up, they should have gloved up before they went any further. Now, they are checking him for gunshot wounds and everything, and I have no problem whatsoever with him yanking this dude's pants and underwear down and let him lay there in front of everybody butt-ass naked. No problem with that whatsoever. Again, fuck this guy's feelings. He tried to kill them. He brought this shit upon himself. He can lay there in the middle of the road out in public with his little fucking dick hanging out for everyone to see and laugh at. Do not give a shit about that. If you don't like it, then you know what? Fuck this guy. He shouldn't have tried to kill these police officers. From the practical standpoint, pulling the pants down is a whole lot faster than trying to take shears and cut up each pant leg to remove the pants. It's so much more efficient just to yank the pants down and pull them down. And that can also act as, it's not a great restraint, but it could also act as a means to further hinder that person's movement when you pull their pants down to their ankles. That's going to limit their ability to move their, use their legs the way they want them to. Yes, they can still wiggle their legs out of those pants, but it's going to take them some time. But when it comes to checking people, pulling the pants down, quickest, simplest, easiest thing to do. So no problem with that at all.
Gloves.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Yeah. Same. Roll him in a recovery position.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Hey, check yourself, ready? Check yourself. Yep.
Hey, come check ready. Someone come check me. Make sure we're not shot.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Good. Yep. Working it.
I'm good. I'm good.
I want to check for if he needs a chest seal or not. He's got a gunshot wound. I don't think he needs a chest seal. He has got a grazed wound here.
Okay. Who fired? Who's okay? Okay. Let these officers handle it. Let's get y'all in your shots.
Keep cover. Not fired.
Shot fired. Or shot fired.
Hands up! Hands up! Keep the air clear at 37. I'm with them. I got it. I can't breathe. 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 60-37, the car's clear. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Officers look okay, but send HFD for this guy. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Repeat, officers are fine. Send HFD for the suspect, please. I can't breathe.
Okay.
That's clear. He's got one gunshot wound to the foot, or to the leg. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
I don't see anybody. Put up gloves.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
You need gloves on? Yeah. Same. Roll him in the recovery position.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Hey, check yourself, ready? Check yourself. Yep. Hey, come check ready. Someone come check me. Make sure we're not shot.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Good. All right. Yep. Working it.
I'm good. I'm good.
I want to check for if he needs a chest seal or not. He's got a gunshot wound. I don't think he needs a chest seal. He has got a grazed wound here.
He has got 1, 2.
Who fired?
We both did.
Okay. Let these officers handle it.
Yeah.
Let's get y'all in your shots.
Hey, y'all got enough chest seals or anything? Y'all need more?
We don't need a
Seals.
He just got shot in the leg and yeah.
Here. Where's the leg one? Right here? Do we have any a gun or anything? Oh, rifle. Okay.
Oh, that ended quickly.
He just got shot in the leg and yeah.
Here. Where's the leg one? Right here?
I think she might have been laughing at his dick. All right, so that's that's it on the video. We see him trying to render some level of medical care, but it doesn't seem like he has any real serious injuries, which he's lucky. I mean, he basically had, for sure, one officer do, if not a mag dump, then damn near a mag dump at him, and then the passenger vehicle, maybe half a mag, 75% of it maybe. All those rounds fired at him, and it only appears as though he got in the leg and the arm. Like, he's fucking lucky. Lucky. The officers themselves are even luckier that those rifle rounds didn't go through and hit any of them. Because if those rifle rounds had hit one of them, it would have gone straight through their vest, no problem whatsoever. Alright, so this is it on this video. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense, thank you for watching.